Hey, what's up? This is Chosen, and this video is going to be version 3.0 of the top 10 legendaries in Raid Shadow Legends, because I have not updated this in about 7 or 8 months, and it's a very important topic to keep up to date as new champions come out and as, you know, the meta changes and we learn more about the game, because this is probably the #1 thing that new players are kind of curious about, is who are the top 10 legendaries. And since it's been a long time since I've updated this, I wanted to do a video about it, because it is going to be a different list than my tier list. They will be in a different order depending on a few things that I will talk about during the video. So let's get into it. Alrighty, at number 10, I am going to have Arbiter. Now, one thing I want to talk about really quickly before I dive into the whole list is that it's very, very tough to narrow this down to a top 10, because there's about 15 to 20 legendaries that would have an argument to be on this list, but when you have to narrow it down to 10, you gotta leave some good champions out. So you definitely let me know down in the comments what you disagree with and all that, but just know that there's really good champions that I have to leave off because I have to narrow it down to 10, obviously. And I'm gonna put Arbiter at number 10 because she's so good for general account progression, and she just carry an account in the arena. She can take somebody from gold 1 to gold 4 just by being built properly and kind of being the leader that buffs the team, does revives, boosts turn meters. Having a void reviver with all of the boosting she does is just so insane for general account progression and kind of single-handedly making you better in the arena. So I didn't want to leave her off the list because she is so generally useful for progressing your account. At number 9, I'm going to have Sir Nicolas. Now, this may actually come as a surprise for some people. Some people think he belongs in that, like, number 10 through 15 tier, but I wanted to get him in the top 10 because, again, he is just such an account carry. He fills so many different roles. His kit is based on HP, so you can get him insane toughness along with damage. He's got an A1 that freezes, and it can't be resisted as long as it places. He's got an A2 that is a 3-turn AoE that places a shield on your whole team based on damage inflicted, so you can do insane things for spider progression, arena, and all sorts of dungeon progression. And then he's got unkillable and continuous heal for all allies, adding even more sustain for your team, and a massive HP aura for all battles, along with a base speed of 105 and being void. So he's just too good of a generalized utility champion to not have in the top 10. If you're a new player that summons Sir Nicolas, it's ridiculously game-changing, and he comes in at number 9. At number 8, we're gonna go over Prince Kaimar. Now, another one that might be slightly controversial because he's probably a little bit better for endgame scenarios as opposed to early account progression, but in terms of having someone available to you on your account and what they bring to the table, he's just too good. He's got an A1 that attacks all enemies. I love those abilities because they have so much utility. You can build stun sets for faction wars. You can do all sorts of things like that that bring so much AoE utility and multiple different builds into play. Then on the A2, we've got AoE buff strip on a 3-turn cooldown that also places asleep. Again, multiple different ways you can go with an ability like this. 3-turn cooldown AoE buff strip that places asleep to boot is just an insane A2. And then the Seal of Magic A3. This is what makes him super cool in terms of building a lot of endgame strategies, in terms of like speed farming the dragon with royal guards, or building certain spider strategies where you can nuke the spider 20 in like 15-20 seconds because of him resetting cooldowns. You can do cool things in the arena, have him go last in your rotation, boom, slam all the cooldowns down and go again. So in terms of those 3 abilities being an insane kit, Kaimar has it. And then he's also got one of the best ally speed auras in the game at 33% for the arena, and a base speed of 103 with some pretty decent base stats. So Kaimar can be built in many different ways, and he's super viable all the way into the end game and building some very cool teams around him. Now, he's not going to be as good kind of standalone. He's going to be somebody you're going to want to build, you know, proper speed tuning and proper teams around him to extract the most value as possible. But he's just too insane in too many different areas, in too many cool teams that feature him, to kind of not leave him, or to not get him on this list, and he comes in at number 8. Number 7 is going to be Krisk the Ageless, and he is actually a newer legendary, a new Void legendary, so not very many people are going to have him. Void legendaries are extremely difficult to acquire, but Krisk is absolutely amazing, and some people are probably going to be arguing in the comment section that he should be even higher than number 7, but he's got the AoE A1 that decreases speed, and his kit is based on defense, so wow, talk about an amazing A1. Like I said with Kymar, so much utility you can do with AoE A1s, in terms of damaging, debuffing, supporting, stunning, anything like that. Being based on defense makes it even better. And then the A2 is another AoE that places ally protection and also continuous heal buffs and increases the duration of ally buffs by 1 turn. Any sort of manipulation of turn meter or buffs is extremely good in Raid, and if you can get him tuned right to go at the right point in your team and increase all those buffs by 1 turn, there's so much value on this ability here. Then this A3 that places Provoke on all enemies, which is extremely strong. Also 60% increased defense on this champion to pair along with that ally protection, and a 30% increased speed buff on all allies except this champion. Now, worth noting, this can be a little bit throwy in terms of messing up counterattack rotations and teams that you have built to go in a specific rotation. This can kind of mess things up if you don't do it properly, but still an insane ability that pairs well with his kit. And the passive is ridiculous. At the start of each round, this is so good for faction wars and dungeon progression and even the arena. Place a shield buff on all allies for 2 turns equal to 50% of this champion's max HP. That's going to be a massive shield. And then a 75% chance that we can boost up to 100 with books of placing a 60% decreased defense debuff and a 50% decreased attack debuff on the attacker for 1 turn when hit. That's crazy. In terms of like a defense team in the arena, he would be absolute double S tier. Anytime he gets hit, lowering defense and attack, that's just ridiculous, along with a massive shield to boot. So Krisk is just so good in general areas of the game, and you're kind of seeing a general thought process here is I'm putting champions in the top 10 that have a ton of utility and can really help someone who summons them to progress their account forward and be good in multiple different areas of the game in terms of extracting high value in important areas of progression. Number 6 is going to be Dracomorph. Dracomorph was famously a Vault Guardian and then got super buffed and has come out of the Vault and into the meta. He is one of the best debuffers in the game, and with him being so strong in the clan boss, it was tough to leave him, outside of the top 10. He comes all the way in at number 6 because he's just so good. I think the clan boss is probably the most important area of Raid Shadow Legends to do well for your clan, do well for your friends, and kind of help your clan be able to down the boss every day and get those rewards. So I think clan boss is probably the most important area of the game, and Dracomorph is one of the best clan boss champions in the game. He's got an A1 that, because of how it works, can hit insanely hard, and then the A2 is 4 times at random each hit places a 5% poison for 3 turns. Typically it's going to be places for 2 turns. Draco places for 3, and in a clan boss scenario, it's not attacking at random, it's just attacking the clan boss 4 times. So that's one of the best poisoning abilities in the game on a 3-turn cooldown. And then Baleful Eye can't hit weak because it doesn't attack, so it's very reliable, massive debuffing on a 3-turn cooldown, placing the big version of weaken and the big version of decreased defense, along with an accuracy aura that isn't super well used or super oftenly used, but it's going to increase ally accuracy and faction crypts by 50. Typically in faction wars, you'd rather have resistance, because especially for like the boss stages where they're placing the fear and stuff on you and stripping buffs and all that. Resistance can be very good, but it's better to have an aura than to not have one, and he doesn't even need one, to be honest, because his kit is so insane and debuffing is so strong in the clan boss. What he brings to the table in terms of his A2 and A3 and A1 that can hit insanely hard, that Draco comes in at number 6. And now, as we dive into the top 5, we are going to start with Venus. Now, on my tier list, Venus actually comes in at number 1 because she's just so strong everywhere in the game. You can basically use her anywhere. She's a Void legendary. She's very tough to get, but if you get her wow, she can help you progress your account. A base speed of 112 is one of the best in the game. She's got an A1 that places poison. She's got an A2 that attacks all enemies and does the big debuffing like Dracomorph. We just talked about the big version of decreased defense and the big version of weaken. So you can see I wanted to get the best debuffers really high in the top 10 at 6 and 5 because it's just too strong on a 3-turn cooldown to be placing those massive debuffs. And then she also has AoE HP burn, which can be so good in areas like the spider and dungeons and faction wars and everywhere, clan boss, 4-turn cooldown, HP burn. And then she also has a tandem ability with Cupidus that is very good, remove all buffs from all enemies. So if you get them on the same team in faction wars, Venus and Cupidus can be pretty insane together. She also has an HP aura in all battles, which is pretty big, of 30%. So Venus is an absolutely insane legendary. She covers so many different bases in a clan boss scenario. She's void, so she'll never be weak. She places poisons. She does decreased defense. She does weaken. She does HP burn. She has an aura that's useful. She just check so many boxes. Base speed, check. High base HP, check. The base defense is a little bit low, but yeah, Venus is an incredible champion, and I couldn't have a top 5 that didn't have her in it. Alrighty, and at number 4, we've got the champion I base my channel art around, and that is Bad Alcazar. I remember when I first downloaded Raid Shadow Legends that first night, I was just kind of going through the index looking at all the champions, and Bad Alcazar is the one that caught my eye. Just in terms of aesthetics, I think he looks amazing, and then I was going through his kit, and I was like, AoE A1 that heals, and then remove all debuffs, and heal and place poison on a 3-turn. I was like, what? And then a passive, you're gonna inflict more damage to people under poison, and you're gonna get more crit rate for all, what, at a base speed of 102, base HP of 20k, base defense of 1150, like, what? I was like, holy cow, I hope I get this champion someday. And then, here we are, a year and some change later, and he's my channel art, and I have him, and I kind of used him everywhere for a while, so it's funny how things work out. But yeah, Bad Alcazar is so good, because what I always call Bad Alcazar is he kind of takes the training wheels off. Because when you're a new player or even a mid-game player, you've got to have like lifesteal on everybody because you probably don't have really good heals. And Bad Alcazar allows you to take those training wheels off because he's got this super reliable healing, places 2 15% continuous heal buffs on all allies for 2 turns while cleansing debuffs. So he can bring so much sustain that your champions don't need to build lifesteal or wear lifesteal gear. You can actually do other things to get better stats, and it's just more and more sustain that snowballs. His A1 does not hit very hard. The multiplier is pretty low, so the heals are not going to be insane. But like I said earlier when I was talking about the utility and the different builds this brings forward, you can build Bad L with a stun set or something and do a bunch of stunning with a bunch of continuous heals, bunch of poisons, and then your whole team does 15% more damage to targets under poison, so it all synergizes. And worth noting that this used to stack. If you were lucky enough to have multiple Bad Ls, this used to stack for every battle you had, but it does not stack anymore. You can only get the benefit of 1 passive from 1 Bad L. So many of you are not lucky enough to have 2 Bad Ls, but it is worth noting that they did change that. But yeah, Bad L comes in at number 4 because he's just so generally useful and allows you to take the training wheels off in terms of being arguably the best healer in the game, so you don't have to build lifesteal everywhere to get value and keep people alive. And now we get to the top 3. These are going to be the insane champions that you really want to get on your account because they are going to be game changing. And I could not do a top 3 without Siphi in it. I think she's the newest Void Legendary, I think. So going to be very hard to acquire. But she can single-handedly carry you in the arena. I know, basically, she's one of the most used champions in the Platinum Arena because of her kit. She's got the base speed of 114 and really good base stats at 21.4 HP and the 1300 defense, so very good base stats. You're not going to build her with high attack and use her as a DPSer, so that's kind of irrelevant. And the A1 will attack one enemy with a 80% that we can book up to 100 of placing a sleep if the target's turn meter is equal to or above 50. That cannot be resisted. And then if it's the opposite of that, it's going to heal all allies by 5% of their max HP. So really consistent value out of an A1, and we'd love to see that. The A2 is just ridiculous. A 3-turn cooldown that fills the turn meters of all allies by 15%, places a block debuffs buff, 60% increased defense buff, and a 30% speed buff on all allies for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. Like, block debuffs is insanely strong. 60% increased defense, insanely strong. 30% increased speed, insanely strong. And then on 3-turn cooldown, this Whirlwind Romance is one of the best abilities in the game. Then we've got the A3 that is Revive and place increased attack and crit rate on that ally for 2 turns, which is not super insane, but on a reliable Revive on a 4-turn cooldown is pretty good. The passive is heals each ally by 15% of their max HP at the start of their turn, with a 40% chance of removing freeze and fear debuffs from each ally at the start of their turn, removes all debuffs from Rotos at the start of their turn if they're on the same team. Siphi and Rotos are ridiculous in the arena. Some would say broken. They are by far the most used combo in the game in terms of high level arena, and yeah, you're starting to see why Siphi is so ridiculous. Can you imagine? I don't have Siphi, but can you imagine how good that is for dungeons, faction wars, arena? She's just so insane everywhere. And then we've got increased ally resist in all battles by 80, which is pretty big. Typically in the arena, you're going to go for speed, so the aura is not used a ton on her, but it's better to have an aura than not have one, and that one's really good for faction wars. She's probably one of the best champions in the game for faction wars, and if you have her, you're probably going to be maxing out the undead faction wars a lot easier than if you didn't. Alrighty, so at number 1 and number 2, I am going to be putting the only 2 legendaries in the game that provide ally counterattack, and I'll explain why they are number 1 and number 2. So in the real world, when is something super valuable? When it is amazing and it's very scarce. Now that makes something very, very valuable. When it's amazing and it's very rare, it makes it very valuable. So ally-wide counterattack is so hard to get in Raid. You can only get it from the Epic Skullcrusher, who isn't eligible for this list because it's legendaries, or Martyr or Valkyrie. That's it. So it's very scarce and it's very amazing. It's also super strong in the clan boss, which is the most important area of the game in my opinion. So when you couple all those factors, I've got to put them at number 1 and number 2 because mainly because of scarcity. Now, if more legendaries and more epics, more champions come out that place ally counterattack, I can probably slide them down the board a little bit because the ability won't be so scarce and it's so needed and so starved for that when you do a top 10 list, I've got to put them at 1 and 2. But I had Martyr at number 1 for a long time, and I've recently shifted to putting Valkyrie at number 1 because of the shield. But yeah, Martyr, just to go over her real quick, she's based on defense, which is amazing. She's got an A1 that decreases defense. That's so good in the clan boss and just general on an A1. And then this Bastion of Faith, obviously I already explained how amazing it is. 60% increased defense and counterattack on your whole team. 3-turn cooldown, lasts for 2 turns, one of the best abilities in the game. Her suppression ability is an AoE that hits insanely hard. A lot of people don't know that about her, but her suppression ability hits really hard, and it places decreased attack and provoke. So again, super strong ability. And then she's got one of the best auras in the game of ally defense in all battles by 33%, which is so good in the clan boss and dungeons, faction wars, all that stuff. But yeah, that brings me to Valkyrie at the number 1 spot, because similar to Martyr, she's got the AoE counterattack, but hers actually places this massive shield on all allies for 3 turns, based off of damage inflicted and proportional to this champion's defense. It ends up being a really big shield. If you get Valkyrie in super high defense, this shield is massive, and it can single-handedly kind of carry you in the clan boss to live for a bunch of extra turns that you otherwise wouldn't if you didn't have Valkyrie on your team. And also with the counterattack ability, and I've already explained why that is so important. But her A1 is also attack 1 enemy 2 times. Multi-hitters are always good. Decrease target's turn meter by 10% on each hit if the target has any buffs. This can be very good, basically everywhere but the clan boss. And then a passive, this champion's turn meter will be increased by 10% each time an enemy champion places a buff. Enemy champions will have their turn meters decreased by 10% for each buff they receive. This can be very good in the arena, but worth noting that Valkyrie can kind of throw off your clan boss timings if you're really building specific teams that are tuned around specific cooldowns going in a specific order. So keep an eye on that because of Valkyrie's, you know, different abilities here that can kind of mess with those things. She's got an allied defense aura and faction crisp by 33%, so obviously she's insane for faction wars, but she's just too good at the clan boss to not be on the list. Having her on your account is going to help you progress so far and make your clan boss team do so much better. She's also got a much higher base speed than Martyr at 104 versus Martyr I think is like 93, 94, something like that. What was it here? Yeah, Martyr is 93, Valkyrie's 104, so 9 higher base speed is pretty significant, and then coupling that along with the shield that Valkyrie places makes her just too insane and too rare and too good and just too many different factors to not have her at number 1. She is so valuable because of all those factors. Alrighty, that's going to do it for my updated 2020 version of the top 10 legendaries in Raid Shadow Legends. And obviously, I know that you're probably going to disagree with some of the placements and people I left off and all that. Definitely let me know down in the comments. I really enjoy hearing other people's input, and I really spent a lot of time and put a lot of thought into this and tried to get the most comprehensive and generally useful top 10 based on value and scarcity and what they do in terms of account progression and value. But you know, that was my reasoning on the top 10 and why people were listed where they were. So as always, thank you for watching. Have a good rest of your day. Peace.